The room was dark and cold. The sound of breathing filled the air. Human children sat close together, their eyes wide, their faces pale. They did not know where they were. They only knew this was not home. The walls were black and seemed to shine like wet stone. Strange lights blinked above their heads. No windows, no doors, only smooth walls that looked alive. The children whispered to each other in fear. Some cried silently, afraid the guards outside might hear. A boy named Ethan sat near the corner. His hands were shaking, but his eyes kept moving, watching everything. He was 13, old enough to understand danger but too young to know how to fight it. He wanted to be brave, but the fear in the room was heavy. It pressed on his chest like a weight. Across from him sat Maya, a girl with sharp eyes and a quiet strength. She was 12, but there was something in her look that made the others trust her. She did not cry. She did not whisper. She simply stared at the walls as if trying to break them with her thoughts. No one knew how long they had been inside this prison. Time felt strange. There were no clocks, no sun, no night or day. Only the sound of the walls humming like a sleeping beast. Sometimes food appeared, glowing cubes placed inside by tall alien guards. The children did not like the food. It tasted like metal and left them weak. But hunger forced them to eat. Some children grew sick after eating. Others felt dizzy. Ethan tried not to eat, but the hunger was too much. He forced himself to swallow, but every bite made his stomach twist. The guards never spoke. They were tall, thin, with long arms and glowing yellow eyes. Their skin looked like metal, and their steps made no sound. They only came to deliver food or to take a child away for hours, sometimes days. Those children came back different, silent, weak, their eyes empty like they had lost something inside. The children feared the moment the door would open. Every sound of metal outside made them freeze. Ethan's eyes wandered to the walls again. Something about them made him curious. They were not like normal walls. They moved slightly, as if they were breathing. Once, when he leaned close, he thought he saw ripples, like waves under the surface. His heart beat fast. He reached out a hand and touched the wall. It felt warm, not cold. His skin tingled. For a moment, he pulled back in fear. But then it happened. A voice whispered inside his head. It was not human. It was soft, echoing, like it came from deep underwater. Ethan froze, his eyes wide. The whisper said, "You do not belong here." Ethan gasped. He looked around. None of the other children reacted. They did not hear it. The voice came again, stronger this time. "You do not belong here, but soon you will." His hands shook. He pressed his ear against the wall, hoping to hear better. Nothing. Only the hum. But inside his mind, the whisper remained. He wanted to tell Maya, but what if she thought he was going crazy? He stayed silent, fear choking his throat. A small boy named Liam noticed Ethan's pale face. "What's wrong?" Liam whispered. Ethan shook his head quickly. Nothing. But inside, his mind was racing. Why did the wall speak to him? What did it mean? Soon you will. Soon he will what? He looked at the guards outside the invisible door. They stood still like statues, their yellow eyes glowing. Could they hear his thoughts? He pulled his knees to his chest and tried to stay calm. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had no meaning here. The children fell asleep one by one, their small bodies huddled together for warmth. Only Ethan and Maya stayed awake. Maya finally spoke, her voice low. "You keep staring at the walls. Why?" Ethan hesitated. He wanted to tell her the truth. But fear held him. He only whispered, "They're not normal. They feel alive." Maya's eyes narrowed. She said nothing, but she did not laugh. She simply turned her gaze to the wall and stared, as if she, too, was waiting for it to move. Then, without warning, the door hissed open. A tall alien stepped inside, its eyes burning brighter than before. The children woke with a start, their hearts pounding. Silence filled the room. The alien's gaze moved slowly over them. Its long finger pointed directly at Maya. A cold voice echoed from its throat. "This one. Ready for testing." Maya's face did not change. She stood up slowly, her body tense but her eyes strong. The children gasped. Ethan's stomach turned cold. He wanted to shout, to stop them, but his voice was trapped in his chest. The alien stepped closer, its shadow covering Maya. The whisper in Ethan's head returned, louder than ever. "Do not let them take her." His hands trembled, his heart raced. For the first time, Ethan realized he was not just a prisoner. The ship itself was speaking to him, and it wanted him to act. Maya did not move as the alien's long hand gripped her arm. The other children watched in silence, too afraid to speak. Ethan felt his heart pound so hard he thought it would burst. He wanted to jump forward, to pull her away, but his legs would not obey. The alien dragged her toward the door, its glowing eyes fixed on her like she was nothing more than an object. Maya turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting Ethan's. For a second, Ethan saw no fear in her face, only fire. Then the door closed, and she was gone. The room fell into heavy silence. Some children began to cry softly. Others lowered their heads as if they had already given up hope. Ethan pressed his back against the wall, his mind spinning. The whisper returned, soft but clear. "They study. They weaken. They change." He shut his eyes, trying to understand. Were the aliens not just guards but scientists, experimenting on them? His stomach twisted at the thought. He remembered how children taken away often came back weaker, quieter, almost broken. What had they done to them? Hours passed in silence. Then food was pushed into the room, glowing cubes sliding across the floor. The children rushed to grab them, too hungry to resist. Ethan stared at the cubes, his mouth dry, but he did not touch them. The whisper echoed again. "The food binds you. It feeds them, not you." Ethan pushed the cube away. Liam noticed. "Aren't you hungry?" he asked. Ethan shook his head. "It makes us weaker." Liam frowned but still ate. Ethan's eyes burned with determination. He would not let them control him. He would not let Maya disappear forever. Suddenly the door hissed open again. The children froze. Another alien stepped inside, taller and darker than the others. It carried a strange rod that glowed at the end. It walked slowly among the children, scanning them with its yellow eyes. When it passed Ethan, the whisper screamed inside his head. "Danger! Hidden enemy! Watch!" Ethan lowered his gaze, trying to act normal. The alien stopped in the middle of the room. It tapped the floor with its rod, and the walls flickered with strange symbols, glowing red. The children gasped. Ethan realized the ship was alive, and the alien was forcing it to obey. But the ship resisted. He could feel it struggle, like a cry for help deep in his bones. The alien growled and left, slamming the door shut. Ethan's breath came fast. The ship was not just alive, it was a prisoner too. And somehow, it had chosen him to hear its voice. The thought made him both terrified and powerful. Hours later, Maya returned. She stumbled into the room, pushed by the alien guard. Her face was pale, sweat dripping from her forehead, but her eyes still burned with that same fire. The children rushed to her, asking questions, but she stayed silent. She only shook her head and sat against the wall. Ethan crawled to her side. "What did they do?" he whispered. Maya's lips trembled, but she forced the words out. "They want to see how strong we are, how much pain we can take. They think we are weapons." Ethan's blood ran cold. Weapons? For what? The whisper filled his head again. "They do not see children. They see war machines." He clenched his fists. Maya looked at him closely. "You know something. I see it in your eyes." Ethan hesitated, then finally whispered. "The ship talks to me. It says the food makes us weak. It says we are not safe here. Maya's eyes widened, but she did not laugh. She believed him. Then we listen, she said firmly. No more food. No more weakness. Some children overheard and shook their heads. We'll starve, one cried. Maya's voice was calm but strong. Better to starve than to lose our minds. Ethan felt a surge of hope. For the first time, he was not alone. That night, when the lights dimmed and the children tried to sleep, Ethan lay awake, listening to the hum of the ship. The whisper came once more, deeper than before. Break the seal, or all will be lost. Ethan shivered. What seal? Where? He did not understand. But the urgency in the voice filled him with dread. Suddenly a loud alarm rang through the walls. The children woke in panic. The door opened, and 2 aliens stepped inside. Their glowing eyes locked onto Maya again. This one. Stronger. Ready. Ethan's heart pounded as he stood without thinking. No. The words slipped out before he could stop himself. The aliens turned their heads slowly, their eyes focusing on him. The room fell silent. Ethan's body shook, but the whisper roared in his mind. Stand. Do not fear. His legs steadied. For the first time, he felt something stir inside him, something the aliens did not expect. Maya stared at him, shocked. The aliens moved closer, reaching for her. Ethan clenched his fists. The ship's voice whispered one last time that night, sharp as lightning. You are not a prisoner. You are the key. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The aliens raised their glowing rods. The children screamed. And in that terrible moment, Ethan knew everything was about to change. The aliens reached for Maya, their glowing rods sparking with strange energy, but Ethan stepped forward without thinking, his body trembling but his eyes burning with something new. The whisper in his head grew louder, filling him with courage he did not understand. Do not let them win. His heart pounded as he placed himself between Maya and the aliens. The guards stared at him, surprised, their yellow eyes narrowing. Children gasped, some whispering his name, but no one else moved. Ethan's legs shook, but he held his ground. Then the walls suddenly shivered, as if reacting to his defiance. The floor glowed faintly under his feet. The aliens hissed and raised their rods, but before they could strike, a loud alarm echoed through the room. Red lights flashed, and the walls rippled like waves of water. The guards froze, looking around in confusion. The whisper thundered in Ethan's head. Now. Move. Ethan grabbed Maya's arm and pulled her toward the door. For a second she resisted, but then she understood. The door was still open, the alarm distracting the guards. Ethan ran, dragging her with him, and 2 younger children, Liam and Sarah, quickly followed. The rest were too afraid, but Ethan could not stop. They rushed into a dark corridor filled with flashing red lights. The walls seemed alive, guiding their path. Ethan did not know where he was going, only that the ship wanted him to run. Behind them, the guards shouted, their steps echoing like thunder. Ethan's chest burned, his breath short, but he did not slow down. Maya pushed Sarah ahead of her, keeping the little girl safe. Suddenly the whisper filled Ethan's mind again. Left. Now. He pulled the group into a side tunnel just as a beam of energy shot past them, burning the wall where they had been seconds before. The children screamed, but Maya held them steady. Keep moving, she ordered, her voice firm. They stumbled into a huge chamber, and Ethan's eyes widened. Inside were rows of tall glass tubes glowing blue, each one holding a human child inside, floating as if asleep. Their faces were pale, their bodies connected to wires and strange fluids. Sarah covered her mouth to keep from screaming. Liam whispered, they're like us. Maya's fists clenched. No, they're worse. Experiments. Ethan's stomach turned. He pressed his hand against one of the tubes. The child inside opened her eyes for a brief second, staring straight at him, then fell back into unconsciousness. The whisper echoed, they feed. They test. They break. Ethan felt anger rise inside him. We have to help them, he said, his voice shaking. But Maya grabbed his shoulder. We can't, not now. We don't even know how. Her eyes darted around. First we survive. The sound of metal footsteps grew louder. The aliens were coming. Ethan looked around desperately, searching for a way out. Then he saw it, a glowing panel on the far wall, pulsing like a heartbeat. His chest tightened. The whisper roared in his head. Break the seal. Without thinking, he ran to it. Maya called his name, but he pressed his hand against the glowing surface. Instantly his mind exploded with light. Images flashed, battles in space, human soldiers building ships, the same ship he stood in now, alive and strong. Then fire, aliens storming it, erasing its memory, turning it into a prison. His knees buckled, but he held on. Ethan! Maya shouted, but it was too late. His hand sank into the panel as if the wall was liquid. A shock of energy shot through the room. The tubes shook, alarms screamed louder, and the entire ship trembled. The children inside the tubes began to stir, their eyes flickering open. The aliens rushed into the chamber, shouting in their strange language. One fired a beam at Ethan, but the wall bent like a shield, absorbing the blast. Maya's eyes widened. She grabbed a fallen alien weapon from the floor and pointed it awkwardly, surprising even herself. The aliens hesitated, not expecting resistance. Ethan felt his mind stretching, linking with the ship itself. He could hear its thoughts, its pain, its anger. They stole me, it whispered. But you woke me. He gasped for air, his body shaking, but he did not let go. The ship pulsed with energy, the lights turning blue instead of red. The aliens snarled and tried to rush forward, but suddenly the tubes holding the other children began to crack. One by one, they shattered, spilling liquid across the floor. Weak, coughing children stumbled out, but their eyes burned with strange light. Maya shouted, "They're waking!" Ethan pulled his hand back, collapsing to his knees, sweat pouring down his face. The ship's voice was softer now but clear. The seal is broken. The truth will come. Alarms screamed as more guards poured into the chamber. The children inside the room screamed, chaos filling the air. Ethan forced himself up, his vision blurry. He turned to Maya. We can't go back. We fight now. Maya raised the alien weapon, her hands trembling but her eyes fierce. The guards charged, weapons glowing. The ship's voice whispered one last time, "You are not alone." And then the floor beneath them shook as the ship itself seemed to roar awake, ready for war. The chamber shook as if the ship itself had taken a breath after years of silence, the glowing tubes around the walls cracking one by one, releasing streams of liquid that splashed onto the floor, children stumbling out with coughing and gasping sounds, their eyes wide in shock and fear. The aliens shouted, their strange voices sharp like knives cutting through the noise, but for the first time they looked unsure, their glowing eyes darting around as the walls pulsed with light. Ethan stood in the middle of the chaos, his body weak but his mind burning with energy, the whisper of the ship echoing louder now, no longer soft but commanding. "I am awake." Maya gripped the stolen alien weapon tightly, her hands shaking but her stance strong, and when one guard rushed forward she pulled the trigger without thinking, a bright beam of light shooting from the weapon and striking the alien in the chest, sending it crashing backward in sparks. The children gasped, some screamed, but Maya did not stop, her voice rising. "Run! Get them out!" She pushed Sarah and Liam toward the newly freed children, guiding them away from the center. Ethan's head spun, images flashing inside his mind, the ship's memories flowing into him like a flood. He saw humans building it with pride, voices calling it a protector, then the invasion, aliens storming in, stealing its heart, forcing it into silence. His knees almost gave way, but the ship's voice steadied him. "You are my link. Guide me." The aliens regrouped, raising their rods, beams of energy crackling, but the floor suddenly lit up with blue lines that spread like veins under their feet, and the ground itself shifted, throwing them off balance. The children screamed again but Ethan shouted, "It's helping us." His voice carried, making even the weakest child lift their head. Maya looked at him, her eyes fierce. "Then make it do more." Ethan closed his eyes and focused, pressing his hands against the glowing panel again. Pain shot through his arms, but the ship roared in his mind. Doors unlocked. Across the chamber, metal doors slid open with a grinding sound, revealing dark tunnels lit with blue light. Go! Maya shouted, leading the children through, while she stayed at the rear, firing clumsy bursts at the aliens to keep them back. Ethan staggered after them, his mind still half inside the ship, feeling its rage like fire in his veins. The aliens screamed something about Protocol Omega, their voices panicked, and one slammed its rod against the wall, trying to force the ship to obey. The wall shuddered but resisted, glowing brighter instead of darker. Ethan felt its struggle, its determination, and whispered, "Don't let them win." The ship answered with a deep rumble that shook dust from the ceiling. As they ran through the tunnels, alarms wailed louder, lights flashing red and blue together, and every wall seemed to shift slightly as if guiding their path. Children stumbled, some crying, but Maya's strong voice kept them moving. "Don't stop. Keep going." She fired another shot behind them, hitting a guard that had gotten too close, her face hard but her hands trembling from the recoil. Ethan pushed forward, his thoughts filled with the ship's voice. Then, suddenly, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber filled with glowing symbols in the air, spinning like stars. In the center was a tall figure made of light, a hologram rising from the floor. The children froze, too afraid to move, their eyes wide in awe. Ethan staggered forward, staring at the figure. It was not alien. It looked human, with sharp features and calm eyes, its voice deep and steady. "I was once yours, but they stole me." Gasps filled the room. Liam whispered, "It speaks our language." Maya lowered her weapon slightly, her face pale but curious. "What are you?" The hologram's eyes turned to her. "I am the mind of this ship. Built by your kind, taken by theirs, forced into silence. But it pointed at Ethan, woke me." Ethan swallowed hard, his chest tight. "Why me?" The hologram's voice lowered. "Because you listened. Because you believed." The aliens' shouts echoed in the tunnel behind them, their footsteps closing in. The children huddled together, fear returning, but the ship's voice grew stronger. "You are not prisoners. You are heirs. This ship is yours." Ethan felt a surge of hope but also a weight of fear. If it was theirs, then they had to fight for it. He looked at Maya, who nodded once, her jaw set. "Then show us how to fight." The hologram's eyes glowed brighter, and the walls around them shifted, panels sliding open to reveal weapons and armor, small enough for human hands. The children gasped, some too afraid to touch them, but others reached out slowly, gripping the strange tools with trembling fingers. The aliens burst into the chamber, their glowing rods raised high. The hologram's voice thundered, "Take command, or be destroyed." Ethan felt the ship's power inside him like a storm, and for the first time, he did not hesitate. He raised his hand, and the walls lit up in answer. The battle was about to begin. The chamber glowed with blue light as the hologram stood tall before the children, its voice steady and strong, telling them of a truth that none of them were ready to hear. "This ship was not always theirs," it said, its eyes fixed on Ethan and Maya. "Long ago it was built by humans, your ancestors, who sent it across the stars to protect and explore. But the aliens you see now stormed in a great war and stole me, erasing my memory, turning me into a prison." The children gasped, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Liam whispered, "Humans built this? But we are just kids." The hologram's eyes turned toward him, glowing brighter. "You are not just children. You are the last of their plan." The words echoed through the chamber like thunder. Maya's face hardened, her grip on the alien weapon tight. "What plan?" she demanded. The hologram raised its hand, and images filled the air. Pictures of human scientists, soldiers, and builders working together, faces full of hope, voices shouting promises of victory. "They knew the war might be lost," the hologram said, "so they placed their hope in the next generation. They gave you hidden gifts, buried deep inside your blood, waiting for the right moment to wake." The children's eyes widened, some whispering in fear, others in awe. Ethan felt a strange heat in his chest, remembering how the ship spoke only to him, how the walls obeyed when he touched them. Maya's mind raced as she recalled her sudden strength, the way she held the alien weapon with ease. The hologram's voice grew darker. The aliens discovered this truth. They did not steal you to destroy you. They stole you to use you, to shape you into weapons for their own war. The chamber filled with silence as the children processed the horror of those words. Sarah began to cry, clutching her knees, whispering, "We are not weapons." Maya bent down and held her, her voice firm. "No, we are not. We are human." Ethan's fists clenched, his anger burning hotter. "That's why they feed us this poison food," he said, glaring at the glowing cubes scattered on the floor. "They want us weak, so they can control us." The hologram nodded. "Yes. But some of you have already begun to resist. Some of you are waking." As if on cue, one of the newly freed children stumbled forward. His hands shook, but then, without warning, the air around him shimmered. A small metal tool on the floor rose into the air, floating as if held by invisible strings. Gasps filled the room. The boy's eyes glowed faintly before the tool dropped with a loud clang. He fell to his knees, exhausted but alive. The hologram's voice thundered again. "The power is real. And it is yours." Ethan felt his heart race. Could they truly fight back? Could they stand against the aliens who had enslaved them? His thoughts were cut short by the sudden arrival of the alien commander. The tall figure stepped into the chamber, larger than the others, his armor gleaming black, his eyes burning gold. The guards behind him spread out, weapons raised. The children froze, terror flooding their faces. The commander's voice was sharp, echoing across the chamber. "They are not masters. They are not heirs. They are weapons. Ours." His long finger pointed at Ethan, then at Maya. "These two burn brighter than the rest. Take them." The guards stepped forward, their rods glowing, but before they could strike, the ship itself trembled. The floor split with blue lines of energy, and the hologram raised its hand. "No," it thundered. "They are mine." The commander snarled, swinging his rod against the ground. A pulse of yellow energy shot outward, clashing with the blue light of the ship. The chamber shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. The children screamed, some falling to the floor. Ethan stumbled but stayed upright, his mind filled with the ship's voice. "They fear you. That is why they call you weapons." The commander's eyes narrowed, his voice full of anger. "Because that is what they are." Then, before anyone could react, several of the children began to glow faintly, their skin shimmering with strange light. Maya gasped as her hands burned with a soft energy, forming a shield of pure blue around her body. The commander's eyes widened for the first time, and a low growl escaped his throat. "It has begun," he said darkly. "The awakening." Ethan's vision blurred as the ship's voice roared in his head. "Choose now. Fight or fall." His hands trembled, but he lifted his head, his eyes locking with the commander's. For the first time, Ethan did not feel like a child. He felt like something more, something powerful, something dangerous. And the commander knew it. The chamber shook as light burst from the children's bodies, soft at first, then stronger, filling the room with a glow that made the aliens step back in shock. The commander snarled, his golden eyes burning with anger, but even he seemed unsettled as he watched the small humans standing taller than before, their fear changing into something else. Maya's shield shimmered around her like glass made of light, protecting the children behind her. Ethan felt heat rise inside his chest, burning like fire, his mind pulsing with voices, the ship's power flowing into him like a river. He lifted his hand without meaning to, and the lights on the walls flared brighter, forcing the guards to shield their eyes. The hologram's voice thundered, "The power within you is waking. Do not fear it. Use it." One boy near the front raised his hand, and a small stone from the floor lifted into the air, spinning slowly before flying across the room and striking a guard in the head. The children gasped, but the boy only stared at his hand in disbelief. Another child touched Sarah's wounded arm, and before their eyes the skin closed, the pain vanishing, the cut healed as if it never happened. gasps and whispers filled the air. The aliens shouted angrily, raising their rods to strike, but Maya moved first. Her shield expanded, the blue energy pushing outward, knocking 2 guards back. The commander roared, his voice shaking the chamber. "They are unstable. Break them before they learn control." The guards rushed forward, weapons glowing, but Ethan's mind burned with the ship's voice. "Take command." He focused on the walls, and suddenly metal panels slid open, shooting beams of blue light at the aliens. Sparks flew, guards falling to the ground. The children cheered, some finding courage and rushing forward with their new powers, throwing objects, raising shields, or striking with glowing fists. Chaos filled the chamber. The commander swung his rod, sending a blast of golden energy that shattered part of the wall, throwing 3 children to the ground. Maya shouted their names and ran to protect them, her shield barely holding against the next strike. Ethan staggered, his body trembling from the power flowing through him, but he pushed forward, placing his hand on the glowing panel again. His mind filled with images of the ship's core, its heart waiting for someone to claim it. "If you take command, there is no going back," the voice warned. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Then I take it." The floor glowed brighter, spreading blue veins of light across the chamber. The children's powers flared stronger, as if connected to Ethan's decision. The commander roared, slamming his rod into the ground, sending shockwaves that shook the floor. Some children stumbled, but Maya stood firm, her shield holding like a wall of light. She shouted, "We fight together." Her voice carried, filling the children with strength. Ethan reached deeper into the ship, feeling its weapons, its memories, its pain. He saw how long it had waited for this moment, how many years it had suffered under alien control. "We will fight," he whispered. The hologram's eyes glowed brighter. "Then take your place." Suddenly the walls shifted, revealing hidden cannons, their barrels glowing blue. They fired at the aliens, beams of energy tearing through armor, sparks filling the air. The guards fell one by one, their glowing eyes flickering out. The commander growled, his fury rising. "You think this makes you free? You are only tools. Children cannot fight wars." Ethan raised his head, his voice steady for the first time. "We are not tools. We are human." The words echoed, making even the other children lift their heads proudly. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Then die as humans." He raised his rod high, energy swirling at the tip like a sun ready to explode. The children screamed, but before he could strike, Ethan's mind connected fully with the ship. The walls flared blinding blue, and the energy blast shattered in his hands, dissolving into sparks. The commander staggered, his golden eyes wide in disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. Ethan took a step forward, his body trembling but his voice clear. "We are stronger together. And we are done being your prisoners." The children stood behind him, their powers glowing brighter, their fear replaced by courage. Maya's shield spread wide, covering them all like wings of light. The commander snarled, raising his rod again, but this time the children were ready. Their wrath had only begun. The commander's roar echoed through the chamber as he raised his golden rod high, energy swirling like a storm above his head, but this time the children did not cower, they stood tall, their eyes glowing faintly, their fear burned away by anger and courage. Maya held her shield wide, its light stretching over them like wings, and Ethan stepped forward, his hand raised, his voice steady though his body trembled. "We are not afraid anymore," he said, and the words carried like thunder. The children behind him cried out in one voice, their anger finally breaking free, their small hands glowing with strange new power. The commander swung his rod down, unleashing a blast of golden fire, but the shield held, bending but not breaking, sparks flying across the floor. Maya screamed with effort, her body shaking as she poured everything into the shield, but then the other children added their strength, their glowing hands pressing against her back, feeding the barrier with their power. The commander growled in disbelief as the golden fire dissolved into harmless light. "This is not possible," he shouted. But Ethan's eyes narrowed. "It is possible because we are human." With that he thrust his hand forward, and the walls of the ship answered, blue beams shooting out from hidden panels, striking the guards and throwing them across the chamber. One by one the children began to use their gifts. Liam hurled a wave of force that knocked 2 aliens off their feet. Sarah raised her hands and a gust of wind pushed the smoke away. Another boy lifted sharp metal pieces from the floor and sent them flying like arrows. For the first time the aliens were not hunters but prey. Panic spread through their ranks, their voices high and broken, but the commander stood firm, his golden eyes burning hotter, his rage boiling. He leapt forward, faster than any of the guards, his rod aimed directly at Ethan's chest, but Maya moved, throwing herself in the way, the shield sparking as the rod slammed against it. She screamed, but did not fall. Ethan's heart raced, his anger exploding inside him, and suddenly blue fire wrapped around his arms. Without thinking he swung his hand, and a wave of light burst out, slamming into the commander and throwing him back into the wall. The chamber shook with the impact, cracks spreading across the stone. The children gasped, staring at Ethan with wide eyes. He stood frozen, his hands still glowing, his chest rising and falling fast. The commander climbed back to his feet slowly, his armor scorched, his golden eyes narrowed with fury. "You think you have won," he hissed. "You have only woken a war you cannot finish." Ethan's voice shook but he did not back down. "Then let it come." The children cheered, their voices echoing like a storm, their courage filling the chamber. The guards tried to regroup, but the ship itself turned against them, doors slamming shut, walls shifting, weapons firing from hidden panels. The aliens screamed as beams of blue light cut them down. The commander, realizing his forces were falling, roared and raised his rod again, summoning a sphere of golden energy that grew brighter and brighter, threatening to tear the chamber apart. Maya shouted, "Ethan, stop him!" But Ethan already knew. The ship's voice roared in his mind. "Together!" He reached out his hand, and one by one the children joined him, their glowing hands rising into the air, their powers connecting like threads of light. The energy swirled between them, forming a single force, brighter than anything the commander could create. The air shook, dust falling from the ceiling, the walls trembling under the weight of their combined power. The commander screamed and hurled his golden sphere at them, but the children unleashed their own light, a wave of blue energy that roared like thunder. The two forces clashed in the center of the chamber, sparks flying, the floor cracking, the sound so loud it felt like the universe itself was tearing. For a moment everything froze, then the golden sphere shattered, exploding into dust. The blue wave crashed forward, slamming into the commander with unstoppable force. He roared in fury, his armor shattering, his rod breaking apart, his body thrown across the chamber like a rag doll. He hit the wall with a deafening crack, then fell silent, his golden eyes dimming. The chamber fell quiet, only the sound of the children's heavy breathing filling the air. Ethan lowered his hand slowly, his body weak, his legs shaking. Maya dropped her shield, falling to one knee, but she smiled through her exhaustion. "We did it," she whispered. The children looked around, their eyes wide, realizing for the first time that the guards were gone, the commander defeated. The ship's hologram appeared again, its eyes glowing with pride. "You have shown them your wrath," it said. "And you have shown me that humanity still lives." The children stared at Ethan, their faces full of hope, waiting for him to speak. He swallowed hard, his voice soft but strong. "This is only the beginning. We are not prisoners anymore. We are fighters. And we will take back what was stolen." The ship rumbled in agreement, its walls glowing brighter, ready for what came next. The chamber still shook from the commander's defeat, blue light flickering across the walls as the children stood together, exhausted but alive, their powers still glowing faintly. For a brief moment they thought it was over, but then the ship trembled with a deeper rumble, one that came from beyond the chamber walls, and the hologram's face darkened. "They are coming," it said, its voice heavy. "The commander was not alone. His defeat has awakened the others. An entire fleet circles above us." The children gasped, fear rushing back into their hearts, but Ethan clenched his fists, his body trembling with both exhaustion and determination. "Then we fight again," he said firmly, his voice carrying through the chamber. Maya stood beside him, gripping the broken alien weapon she had used until its power ran dry. Her shield flickered weakly around her, but her eyes were fierce. We don't run. Not anymore. The hologram nodded slowly. The ship is yours now. But to truly command me, one of you must bond with my core. It is dangerous, it may cost your life, but only then will I rise fully against the fleet. The children stared at one another, whispers breaking through the silence. Sarah clutched Maya's arm, crying, "No, we can't lose anyone." Ethan stepped forward, his chest tight. "I'll do it." Maya spun to face him, shaking her head. "No. You've done enough. You'll die." Ethan's eyes met hers, steady. "If I don't, we all die." The ship rumbled as if agreeing, its walls glowing faintly. The hologram pointed toward a hidden door at the far end of the chamber. "The core awaits." The children followed as the doors opened, leading them into a massive room filled with blinding blue light. In the center stood the core, a sphere of swirling energy, pulsing like a living heart. Its power was overwhelming, the air vibrating with its strength. Ethan stepped toward it, but Maya grabbed his hand, her voice breaking. "Ethan, please." He smiled weakly, squeezing her hand. "You said we fight together. This is my part." He pulled free and walked to the core, his small figure glowing in the blue light. The aliens' voices echoed through the tunnels behind them, the fleet landing their ships, the sound of heavy footsteps drawing closer. Time was running out. Ethan placed his hands on the core, and pain shot through his body like fire. He screamed, his knees buckling, but he did not let go. The ship's voice roared in his mind. "Do you give yourself to me?" Ethan's voice cracked but stayed strong. "Yes." The core exploded with light, flooding the chamber, shaking the entire ship. Maya shielded the other children, but they watched in awe as Ethan rose slowly into the air, his eyes glowing bright blue, his voice merging with the ship's. "I am here," he whispered, but it was not just his voice. It was the ship's voice too, fused into one. Outside, the alien fleet descended, their ships surrounding the prison ship, weapons glowing, ready to destroy it. The alien commanders barked orders, but then the prison ship moved, its engines roaring awake for the first time in decades. The walls glowed, the cannons extended, and the once silent vessel became a beast reborn. The children inside felt the floor steady beneath their feet, the hologram smiling at them. "Your friend has become my heart," it said. "And now, we fight as one." Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she raised her weapon high. "Then let's finish this." The aliens stormed through the tunnels, but the children, armed with their new powers, stood ready. Liam hurled another wave of force, Sarah created a barrier of wind, Maya's shield glowed brighter than ever, and the others joined, their fear gone, replaced by fury. The halls became a battlefield, small humans against towering aliens, but this time the humans struck first. The ship's cannons fired at the fleet above, beams of blue tearing through alien ships, explosions lighting up the void of space. The aliens panicked, their formations breaking, but their numbers were endless. Inside, the commander's second-in-command, even larger and more brutal, stormed into the core chamber, roaring with rage. He saw Ethan glowing within the core and shouted, "Tear him out!" Guards rushed forward, but the children blocked them, their glowing powers holding the line. Maya charged, slamming her shield into one guard, then firing the broken weapon like a hammer into another. She screamed, "You won't touch him!" The battle raged around them, but Ethan, now fused with the ship, felt everything. He could see every corridor, every cannon, every child fighting, and every alien dying. His body was weak, but his mind was vast, his spirit burning. The alien leader charged at Maya, raising his massive blade, but before he could strike, Ethan's voice boomed through the chamber. "Enough!" The walls flared with light, and a burst of blue energy shot out, striking the leader and disintegrating him into ash. Silence followed for only a moment before the ship's cannons unleashed one final barrage, tearing the alien fleet apart. Explosions filled the sky, debris raining down, the enemy scattered and broken. Inside, the children collapsed to their knees, exhausted but alive. The hologram appeared once more, its voice calm. "It is done. You have won." Maya rushed to the core, her hands pressed against it. Ethan, can you hear me? The core pulsed, and Ethan's voice echoed softly. I'm here. I am part of the ship now. Tears streamed down Maya's face, but she smiled. Then we are never alone again. The children gathered, their faces lit by the glow of the core, realizing they were no longer prisoners but survivors, fighters, and the heirs of a forgotten power. The ship rumbled like a heartbeat, its voice and Ethan's voice speaking as one. This is only the beginning. And as the stars stretched out before them, the children knew their war was far from over.